2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We have roll call, please.
Messina.
Here.
Ingalls.
Here.
Coppice.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Lutrip. McCracken.
Okay, if you can join me for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Did the pledge, and I need approval of the March 11th, 2025 P&Z Commission meeting, please.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second by Fleming. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This time, public comment for anything that isn't on our agenda. Anybody want to come up and address the commission? Nope. And we have any staff
Sorry,
comment?
we were trying to resolve something else. There are 2 vacancies, so we have a Planning and Zoning Commission seat available and also a Design Review Commission seat available. So if anyone is interested, the information is posted on the city's website. If you go to the top under I Want to Volunteer, there's information about the 2 vacancies. The Planning and Zoning Commission, it's anyone that lives within the city limits that has been a resident of Kootenai County for at least 2 years prior to appointment. And they either have to be a resident of the city during their term, or they could be a non-resident if they're employed within the city limits. It's a 6-year term. And then the Design Review Commission seat is for someone who resides within any of the districts under the purview of the Design Review Commission. So those would be our C17, so our commercial zoning district, C17L, R17, R34, which is a special use permit, the downtown core and the downtown north, downtown east, and midtown overlay. And that is a 4-year term. So if anyone is interested in those, they can apply and submit the required materials. We do not have any public hearing items in May, but we will be looking at scheduling a workshop to talk about some of the code amendments we discussed at our joint workshop with the Historic Preservation Commission. And then I will be giving a presentation to City Council next Tuesday on the efforts of the downtown core and the infill working group. I have.
Okay,
you.
thanks, Hillary. Commission comments? Go ahead, John.
Commissioner Lutrip isn't here tonight, and we've been informed that this would be his last meeting and the end of his term. For the benefit of the meeting minutes and the YouTube video that goes online that's viewed by thousands, millions, well, I'm not sure, but lots. I'd just like to, on behalf of us up here, pass our thanks on to Peter for his unwavering support, dedication, and time. I think he's been up here for 18 years. That's a long time. And, it strikes me that, when I look over at his packet, there's all these dog-eared pages and sticky notes. And you can just tell he's spent hours and hours and hours. And it shows in his preparedness and his ability to ask, good questions and make grounded decisions, and he's been a great mentor for me, and I just want to say on behalf of all of us, thank you for your service.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I totally agree with that as well, and I wish Peter the best in his Tuesday night off now, whatever he's going to do with his free time. But anyway, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it if you're looking at this later on tonight or tomorrow. At this time, we're going to do public hearing, which is the applicant is Melrose Property, LLC, Location is 417, 421, 503 West Emma Avenue. It's a proposed zone change from R12 to C17L on 3 parcels. And Sean's going to give us a overview of that.
All right, thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
Before we begin, I would also like to thank Peter for his years of service. I always will remember fondly his ability and his hand language, his sign language, talking about bringing everyone together and talking about this and making sure that the applicant has approached the neighborhood and included everybody. So if you're out there, Peter, thank you. All right, so to begin, our first and only item on the agenda tonight is ZC 325, which is a zone change request for 3 contiguous properties, each with a single-family home on it, at 417, 421, and 503 West Emma Avenue. The applicant is Melrose Properties. Chris Meyer is here representing Parkwood Business Properties. And the decision tonight is, should Planning Commission recommend to the City Council to adopt or not to adopt the requested zone change from R12 to C17L for property owned by Melrose Properties. So the location, I just said that. The proper legal notice was provided. 56 mailings were sent out on March 21st to resident owners within 300 feet. It was published in the Coeur d'Alene Press on March 22nd, and the property was posted on March 26th.
Can we lower the lights? Can we lower the lights so we can see the screen? Can you drop these lights? It's just hard to see the screen.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. Don't know if he's in there.
The Wizard of Oz back there.
Magic. Yeah, it's just, it happens to be my glasses and the screen and the lights. That'd be great.
Oh, up.
Perfect. Now I can see the screen. Thank you.
All right. Hopefully I can read my staff report.
Sorry about that. You don't have to go that dark.
That's okay.
It's these lights that are more bothersome, yeah.
All right, so this is the location map of the subject properties. There are 3 in total here, each with a single-family house. US 95, Emma is the east-west cross, and Government Way north-south on the other end, bookended. So some background information that the applicant provided. They have assembled these properties over the last 10 years. They made strategic acquisitions of those homes to provide for expansion of the daycare facility. It was priorly a church in that location. And then in 2019, they worked with Idaho Department of Transportation to install a signal at US 95 and Emma to ease congestion in the medical corridor. So there are 4 findings that need to be made for a zone change request, and I'll go through each of those right now. First one is B1, that the proposal is or is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So this is the city as a whole and the location of that. The comprehensive plan calls this out as a place type of urban neighborhood. And so this is a zoomed in area of the future land use map for the city of Coeur d'Alene. This is that urban neighborhood area. Retail corridor is in purple, and compact neighborhood is across to the south. This is what place types represent. They're policy level guidance that will inform the city's development ordinance into the future. Each place type corresponds to multiple zoning districts. We'll go over those in a moment. This is a description of what urban neighborhood places are, and they're highly walkable, largely multifamily building types, shared green spaces, parking areas, typically served with gridded street patterns and for larger developments, and they may have an internal circulation system. Typically consists of townhomes, condominiums, apartments, convenience access to goods, services, and dining for nearby residents. And supporting uses include neighborhood parks and recreation facilities, parking, office, and commercial development. As I just mentioned a second ago, the compatible zoning is R17, R34 by special use permit, NC, which is neighborhood commercial, community commercial, C17 and C17L, and C17L is the request of the applicant tonight. Second piece of that comprehensive plan is the transportation network and the elements of such and what is located here. And so these are existing facilities. You can see that there is on Ironwood as well as Government Way For the second one is the walking network and where those are at. You can see on Emma, if you look, squint your eyes and look really closely, that there is a sidewalk, although it terminates at the end of the ownership where the church and the current daycare facility exists. And last but not least is CityLink, and this is Route A as I understand it, and it is very close to that as well. So last but not least are the plan, goals, and objectives. I always do this as thank the citizens that came out tonight. They're well-informed, responsive, and involved in community discussions. Goal CI2 is maintain a high quality of life for residents and businesses that make Coeur d'Alene a great place to live and visit. The third one was growth and development to ensure high quality infrastructure and to accommodate community needs and future growth. And last but not least is the jobs and economy, retain, grow, and attract businesses. Okay, so finding B2, or is that public facilities and utilities are or are not available and adequate for the proposed use. So we have comments that can be found on pages 12 and 13 of the staff report from police, streets and engineering, fire, water, and wastewater departments. Each have reviewed and the application's request, and they've indicated that there's adequate public facilities and public utilities available to serve the proposed zone change request. As a part of that, I wanted to mention that police did make a comment that in the future, if and we discussed this with engineering to try and align any future driveways with ones that are south of Emma so that vehicles can see each other as they're coming and going and they're not offset to help prevent any traffic hazards, future traffic hazards. So finding B3 is that the physical characteristics of the site do or do not make it suitable for the request at this time. So physical characteristics of the site, it's about 194 feet wide by 215 feet deep. There are single-family homes, as mentioned, that are 1 to 2 stories, wood frame construction, modest setbacks about 20 feet from the street, and the site does not have paved sidewalks along West Emma Avenue with minimal on-site parking. There's driveways and mature street trees that provide partial shading on either side of the street, and then there's a buffer that exists north of the subject properties that help to screen the shopping center. So here, pictures are worth 1,000 words, so we'll go through some pictures here. This is the corner of Emma and US 95. This is looking north. This is the parking lot currently for Kootenai Kids. And then slightly turned to the right, this is the facility itself with the remainder of the parking lot. And then looking down Emma, looking towards the east here, you have the I-Center to the right. They do have a parking agreement with Parkwood. They do share some parking. That's a very old agreement that is still in use today. And then the sidewalks that flank either side, and then you can see the street trees as you move farther down Emma. This is back across the street on the same side as the subject property. These are the subject properties off to the rear, I guess, or further down the picture, and then the sidewalk as it terminates at the edge. Here's a picture of all 3 of those homes, a little more clear. And then finally, a picture of each one of these homes. So I struggled for a minute putting together this slide because up here the description is the numbered addresses of each of those, and they are in order, numerical order, but since we're moving to the west, the one on the right and the one on the left would be swapped in real life, just so you're aware. And then the center one here, you can see where the notice was posted. All right, so finding B4, the last finding is that the proposal would or would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regards to traffic, neighborhood character, and or existing land uses. So Chris Bosley, the city engineer, he made a statement about traffic here, and there is some traffic impacts. Currently, single-family homes are around 9.52, about 10 trips per dwelling unit per day, for a total of about 28.56 or 30 trips per day. And the difference for a daycare center is that each employee generates about 26 3/4 of a trip per day, so it is a significant increase in trips. However, Emma still has the available capacity to accommodate the additional traffic, so that was provided by Chris Bosley. And then neighborhood character. So Government Way, US 95 are the north-south kind of main corridors through town to get up to I-90, which is the east-west. It's very close to those intersections. And there's an eclectic mix of residential, civic, and commercial nearby. Ironwood Square, Kootenai Health, North Idaho Institute, and the strip mall are close by. The daycare provides various wait a second here. Bookended between Kootenai Kids and various professional offices on the east end towards Government Way, where there's also a coffee stand. And like I said, the sidewalks do not exist in front of the existing residential homes. And so housing stock along Emma varies in size and condition, reflecting a mix of older homes and maintained properties, typical of mid-20th century development, and the street is lined with mature trees. So the existing zoning map, you can see here, the C17L is kind of that pinkish area, and so there's quite a bit of that on the opposite side of US 95. To the north is Ironwood Shopping Center. That is all C17, which is the high-intensity commercial type development and zoning. R12 for the subject property here, which is outlined, which shows those three properties. And then on the other side of Government Way, there's some R17. So you can see one of the things that kind of hopped out or spoke to me in this is that because these are corridors, you can see that there's C17 L development north and south that kind of bookends the residential development, and then to the north is that commercial. This is a description of what the C17L zoning district is. I'd like to point out letter C, which this district is suitable as a transition between residential and commercially zoned areas and should be located on a designated collector street or better for ease of access and to act as a residential buffer. So these are all of the uses. I always like to point out that any zone change comes with a number of uses by right that are allowed. This is that use for C17L. Largely, these are what's considered service uses, and I underlined childcare facility, which is what the request would be for in this case. The land use map, you can see there's a bunch of commercial here. This actually should be blue. I just picked up on that before tonight's hearing. This is all civic use, similar to the C17L map that I just went over for zoning. The daycare is also considered civic use. We have a single family, a few duplexes around the area, and various commercial as they flank both US 95 and Government Way. So prior zone changes in the vicinity, you can see that this has been a transitional area for a number of decades, going back quite a bit here to 1982 all the way up through 2011. Green denotes approvals, red are denials, and then blue would be withdrawn. There's only green on this map, so there's each zone change that has been requested has been approved in the area. So with that, I'll wrap up my staff report. The action alternatives for Planning Commission is that you will need to consider this request and make appropriate findings to recommend to City Council that they either adopt the C17L zoning or not adopt the C17L zoning. With that, that concludes my staff report, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Sean?
I have two,
Go ahead.
please.
Yeah.
Sean, two quick things. If this is approved, are they obligated to put a sidewalk in along Emma?
Ultimately, that's up to engineering, but because it is adjacent, they will be putting in the sidewalk. That's city policy.
And the other thing, there have been no plans submitted. We can't see where their proposed driveways are beyond what is already existing.
Correct. So a zone change doesn't require a site plan like a special use permit does, because all of the available type
Thank
uses.
you very much.
You're welcome.
I just got one.
Yeah, well,
Sean, this is 3 properties.
Correct.
Is it the intent to make it one property?
Yes. So my understanding is, and the applicant can speak to this better than I can, but they would add on to the building and possibly add some additional parking as required by code behind the building somewhere, but we haven't seen where any approaches would be.
Potentially, it's 4 properties turning into 1 property. To
Yes.
include the one to the west.
Right, they would have to be consolidated.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Sean, question, these 3 properties, I went and looked them up on the county's deal, and that one is .29, the other's .29, the other one's .39. It adds up to .97 of an acre. R12, if you could figure it out, setbacks and all the other stuff, in theory, you could, what could you do with an R12? What is allowed in an R12 in terms of multifamily or if it wasn't approved for childcare, that area seems like an area of transition. Our old comp plan used to talk about areas of transition. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So if it weren't to be childcare, I would think someone would try to maximize 12 units on there somehow. Is that-
Probably not the way that the current code is written, but very good question. Thank you for asking it. So R12 does have a limitation currently because we don't have pocket housing. That was repealed a number of years ago. So the highest and best use in R12 allows a maximum of 2 units on any parcel. So that can be, if they have 11,000 square feet, 2 single-family homes, or they could have a single-family home and an ADU on each lot. So that would be a maximum of 6 in this case.
Thank you. Kind of where I was coming from in that was, sometimes think it's a little bit unfair or whatnot to look at, the traffic, as what's there, 3 single families versus, a childcare center, maybe the fairer or, another component of the analysis would be to say, it's not 3 single-family residences, but what the maximum by right now would be versus the change. You follow me?
Yes, yeah.
And so that would be a lesser, because is it really going to stay 3 single families forever? Probably not. If this and so I was just trying to.
I'm making a mental note right now because I've done theoretical maximums for what the request is, but I haven't done what the theoretical is for the existing.
I'm not being critical. I'm just saying.
No,
I'm just saying
it's good information.
It's,
I agree.
If I live next door, do I want to see more traffic? No, but some is probably in the cards because of inevitable change. Would you agree?
Yes. I agree.
Thank you.
Cities constantly change.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Is there any more questions? All
They covered it. I got
right.
questions for the owner.
Have Chris come up and give his testimony, or would you like any specific
Yeah.
thing to look at here? Map or picture? Or?
That looks good. Let's use the Shell's
All right.
Steam example. Where the sidewalk ends.
Yeah.
Rebuild.
Chris, can you just state your name, city you live in, and I'll swear you in?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chris Meyer. I'm a partner with Parkwood Business Properties. I live here in beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Great, thank you. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I
Go
do.
ahead, Chris. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the commissioners. Thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate this, being here tonight on a blustery evening. I am Chris Meyer, a partner with Parkwood Business Properties, representing our applicant, Melrose Properties LLC. It's one of our internally owned groups. I was actually involved in the original acquisition of the church and the conversion into daycare. And to tell a little story about how transformative that was to our partners at Kootenai Health, that facility was able to double their available child care slots, and those go to their employees. And that Kootenai Health is our single largest employer in the community, so trying to attract and retain employees through this child care benefit has been one of their competitive advantages over the years. And so it's been a pleasure for us at Parkwood to help facilitate that, learn about the daycare industry. It's a very challenging operating industry. And one of the reasons why this site made a lot of sense is because it's within walking distance to the hospital where most of the employees are. Everybody wants to go check on their kid during lunch break or coffee breaks, things like that, in between patients. In addition, it had good access in that location. We did partner with the state of Idaho in 2019 to put that signal in there to allow for better pedestrian safety crossing the facility. And in addition, because it was a former church, it has abundant outdoor space. Kids want to get outside and play, regardless of the weather in our community. And so the state codes require that you have a certain minimum amount of outside space, which means it's very difficult to site a child care center in existing facilities in our community. So to find a facility like this with that proximity to that employment base, be able to facilitate the conversion given the outdoor spacing we have was a very kind of a needle in a haystack thread that we're able to weave and create that opportunity in the community. Seeing Kootenai Health's growth over the last 15 years, they've almost doubled their employee headcount in that time period. Consequentially, the growth needs for childcare slots have been commensurate. So they now have a waiting list of over 150 employees who'd like to get their kids into this facility. So we're trying to be a partner with them and kind of be ahead of the curve here to help facilitate the land use planning requirements in order to facilitate that type of expansion. We're not sure exactly what that entails at this point. They don't know, do they need more younger kids care? That kind of a facility requires different kinds of planning for it. What are their needs for the different ages and stages, the access needs, coordinating that with the parking leasing arrangement we have with the eye clinic across the street. So a lot of moving parts that are still happening. So that's kind of why we wanted to get ahead of that curve, be prepared to respond to those expansion needs when they come. As you saw in the public testimony, Kootenai submitted a letter which described their support of the request, including their ongoing backlog of demand for this kind of service. So we're trying to be a good partner and be prepared for it. The other piece that isn't in Sean's excellent presentation, and I appreciate it, thank you for the hard work that you put into this, and obviously, yes, as a part of the frontage improvements and any additional development, we would continue the sidewalk to nowhere. I tease with Bud and Darlene Sheldon, who live in that house right there, about finally completing the sidewalk in front of their house once we get this accomplished. But the changes in the neighborhood and changes in our community are coming at us rapidly. About a month ago, the Idaho Transportation Department announced their intentions to completely rebuild the US 95 I-90 interchange. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of that. I'm sure they briefed council and we saw it in the newspaper. Those changes, in order to rebuild that intersection, looking forward to 2045 in their traffic model planning, involved a widening of US 95 all the way down to our Emma signal. Some of the line work, while still preliminary, did show the potential that they would need to acquire right-of-way in front of our daycare facility and remove some of our available parking there. So we're not sure exactly where that ball is going to bounce to, but we can see the writing on the wall that the community needs that additional traffic planning growth, which is probably going to squeeze into some of our adjacent properties. So trying to be proactive, we decided to proceed with the zone change application now, knowing that the rest of the planning was still a little murky, but we didn't want to get squeezed out on the front end before we knew we would have the ability to expand and replace some of that parking that could be potentially taken from us, and rightfully so, through the public process, to facilitate the expanded traffic planning. So that's not really a part of what can be evaluated tonight, but we think it's important color commentary to introduce to the commissioners tonight about why we want to proceed with the zone change application now. So thank you again for your time. We're happy to answer any of the questions of yourselves or anyone in the room. So,
John?
Just curious, I read about, in the staff report a little bit about the I-90-95 interchange and how it's going to pinch you a little bit and whatnot. Have you? It really doesn't have a big bearing on the decision, but I was just curious. Have you studied the footprints and whatnot, knowing that this thing is fully utilized? You have 150 on the waiting list and everything else. Have you done some kind of little footprint studies to see whether you knock those houses down, build it over here, and then put the parking there to where you can have continuous operations? And are you looking at those kind of things? If you if you can only get the new one done by knocking the old one down for a year that it takes to build the thing, what do you do in the meantime? I'm just curious.
It's a great question, Commissioner Ingles. We've done some early modeling and massing plans of that. Some of it does depend, for example, on the police comments about this. Where's the best traffic planning for the access? If you keep the access too close to the signal, maybe it starts to create other different constraints. If you flip the front door to the other side, there's a series of pros and cons that we haven't quite evaluated yet. But yes, we absolutely need to keep the existing in place while we construct the new, trying to leverage the capital that's invested in the existing facility to just kind of expand it with another wing, for example. But we're also trying to maintain that green space, the tree cover, the parts that make that facility so appealing as a child care center, knowing that it has all those surrounding elements. But honestly, trying to make sure that signal functions properly for the evening and morning drop-off kinds of traffic patterns. Beyond that, it's a pretty quiet site most of the day, but we're balancing a bunch of those different objectives.
So your goal is to try to not lose what you have, but
Yes,
the
we're
process.
in order to try to manage budgets with the hospital and to be honest, this is an employee satisfier, but it's a loss leader for them. So as they're trying to facilitate high-quality, locally controlled healthcare in our community at a reasonable price, preserving the assets we've already invested in together is one of their objectives.
Thank you.
Well,
Well,
I know that this is very ephemeral, so there's not something we can tie into. But currently, the daycare center, is it a 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. operation? What is it currently?
So the last time I had updated information, Commissioner Fleming, that is the hours they were running, trying to correspond with most of
It's
their
12-hour, 10-hour shifts?
different kinds of shifts. Some of it depends. If you work in the outpatient clinics across the street at the cancer center, it's more of an 8 to 5.
Right.
If you're in the hospital, it's a 4 to 4.
Yeah.
It varies. They're doing the best they can to stretch their staffing needs to accommodate where the biggest bulges are. Sometimes if you're working off-shift hours, your spouse might be able to cover childcare. It seems like it's that 8 to 5 business hours that's the biggest effort, trying to cheat a little bit on the front end and stay a little late on the back end.
And your intention is to preserve the current structure and extend it or whatever?
That's the preliminary conversations.
Well, the cost of building went up 20% in the last month, so yeah.
Wholeheartedly agree.
The other thing, Parkwood historically in this town has done good things. We've seen that. We see your name on buildings and we realize that you pay attention to your adjacencies. You pay attention to where you are and how you treat your neighbors. And I think that's going to be the major concern here is sidewalks, yes. Trees, yes. Try to soften it. Try to be attentive to the current residencies and the future. So I think that I know how you guys behave. You seem to give back more than we ask for. And I feel confident that what you will eventually bring to this is a good solution for both the hospital and the community. I couldn't think of anything else because you will be mandated by the city to provide the sidewalks, provide the right egress and ingress, and hold trees up against adjacencies so that they have their privacy, that you don't have a big building looming over them. So I didn't see any majors on this one. I thought that you're giving back to what we need. My son works in radiography, and he says the women all complain about their childcare challenges. It's tough. It distracts them from doing their work. So this is again something we need in our community. We need our hospital. We need our moms to be content to work and focus. So this is a good thing, to my mind. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Phil?
Yeah, Mr. Myers, thank you very much. Two quick questions. This is a daycare facility restricted to use of the Kootenai Health people, is that correct?
At the moment, they've chosen to operate it that way, Commissioner Ward, because of the unmet demand within their own facility. So they're trying to take care of their own first, is my understanding, yes.
The other thing is, as I understand reading the application, Kootenai Health or whoever paid for the traffic light that is at Emmer 95 when it was put up years ago?
There was private-public partnership contributions there, so Parkwood paid a portion. Kootenai is reimbursing through some other arrangements, and then in conjunction with, I believe the city had some funding and the state Idaho Transportation Department as well. That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Okay. No questions. All right. We'll get you back if we need to.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone signed up. I see a couple of people sitting out here, so if you want to speak, just come on up and tell me your name and the city you live in, and I'll swear you in. If not, I guess there's not much of a rebuttal on anything. I'll close public testimony and bring it to commission for further discussion and motion.
I'll make a comment, someone else make a motion. The main thing the community probably needs above everything else in our community is daycare facilities. And the fact that someone's doing one, I just think it's great. And it's tied to their employees even better. Don't like the fact they have to go to C-17 to do it, but I understand what the zoning is around there, and I have no problem with it.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Well said, couldn't agree more.
I agree with that as well, so other discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
Merci. Okay, this matter having come before the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 8th, 2025 to consider ZC 3-25, a request for a zone change from R12 to a C17L on 3 parcels measuring a total of 0.957 acres. The applicant is Melrose Properties LLC. The location is north of West Emma Avenue between US 95 and North A Street, commonly known as address numbers 417, 421, and 503 West Emma Avenue. Findings of fact, the Planning and Zoning Commission finds that the following facts, A1 through A14, have been established on a more probable than not basis, as shown on the record before it and on the testimony presented at the public hearing. We notified the public through postings and through the newspaper. We opened an open hearing. We've had a public hearing sent to all political subdivisions in the area and impact areas. A notice of public hearing must be given to a pipeline company, and it was notified and responded. The subject properties contain 3 single-family homes and 3 existing parcels located on the north side of Emma, as noted. And the subject properties are currently zoned R12, residential at 12 units per gross acre. The neighborhood surrounding is a mix of housing types and commercial presence. It's situated between US 95 and Government Way. Quick access to these north and south corridors to I-90 is gained from this area. We also are in recognition that this is a transitional road set up with future changes coming. A9, the comprehensive plan future land use map designation is the urban neighborhood place type. The comprehensive plan states that the compatible zoning districts are listed as R17, R34 SUP, NC, CC, C17, and C17L. According to the comp plan, the urban neighborhood place type is described as places that are highly walkable neighborhoods with large multifamily building types, shared green spaces, and parking areas, typically served with gridded street patterns, whereas we happen to have a freeway going through it. A11, the Planning and Zoning Commission has identified the following comp plan goals and objectives as being applicable to this matter. It's C1, that we are well-informed and responsive and involved community delivery that fosters broad-based and inclusive community involvement. Goal GD2, ensure appropriate high-quality infrastructure to accommodate community needs, and this certainly does that if this goes forward. Goal JE1, retain, grow, and attract businesses. This is growing, it's supporting, and addresses a child care support that we are in critical need of to this area. A12, city departments have indicated that services and utilities are adequate and available, and city policies concerning water and wastewater must be adhered to. A13, the subject properties in aggregate measure approximately 0.957 acres in size. They are relatively flat with mature street trees. Hopefully they can be retained. That's our goal. An eclectic mix of residential, civic, and commercial retail are nearby. Ironwood Square, Kootenai Health, North I Institute adjacent and across from this proposed development, and a strip mall are close proximity. Residential component located on the north side of Emma's Avenue is bookended between Kootenai Kids Daycare and various professional offices and a coffee stand. A14, the city engineer has indicated that expansion of the existing daycare within the proposed C17L zoned properties to the east would increase traffic. Although the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual provides no direct comparison between land uses, it estimates that 3 single-family residential properties generate approximately 9.52 trips per dwelling unit, amounting to 26 trips per day. In comparison, and it depends on how many head count there are, a single daycare giver will generate 26 trips per day, not knowing that number.
It was 28.56.
Oh,
from the-
28.56.
okay, from
Wrong
the-
glasses.
Yeah, from the single family.
From the single family.
Okay.
And for comparison, just one employee at the daycare center generates an average of 26.73 trips per day. So it's considerable, there's no question, but we'll do our best to address that through development. Clearly, a significant increase in trips, as well as we'll watch where those curb cuts occur and where that ingress and egress occurs to limit as much we can the impact to adjacencies. With the conclusions of law based on the foregoing findings of fact, the Planning and Zoning Commission makes the following conclusions of law. B1, this proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan policies. B2, public facilities and utilities are available and adequate for the proposed use. B3, the physical characteristics of the site make it suitable for the request. And finally, B4, the proposal would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood character and/or with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and/or existing land uses. Finally, in the decision, Planning and Zoning Commission, pursuant to the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, has determined that the requested zone change does comply with the required evaluation criteria and recommends that the City Council does adopt the C-17L zoning.
Okay, thank you. And I have a first by Commissioner Fleming.
Second?
I have a second by Commissioner Ingalls. Any further discussion? If not, we got roll call.
Actually, there is
Oh, hold on.
just one thing to make sure it's recognized. Ms. Tracy, I think you had an email in here from someone who was opposed. There was a lot of things supporting it, but there was one voice that was concerned about the traffic. I just want to make sure from the public standpoint that that was heard.
This was the last page.
Tracy, is it the last page?
Last page. I disagree with proposal for a zone change of parcels 417, 421, and 503 West Avenue. It came from McKenna Cooney. The area has already increased in traffic through the neighborhoods, and newly built commercial properties have impacted the parking of the area of residents. More commercial buildings tearing down old homes, taking up more street parking, and increasing both noise and traffic in settled neighborhood is not in the best interest of the people.
Thank you.
That the one?
Yeah, that's it. And-
That was the one oppositional.
Yep, and my thoughts are, we've already talked about the need for this. We've talked about the impending growth of urbanization across the town, and if not now, when? And what better opportunity than this in order to support a pretty critical need for a lot of our local employees in the healthcare business, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, roll call.
Coppice.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Ingalls.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Messina.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, best of luck. If we have no further discussion, go ahead, Phil.
Can I do something a little different, but along the same line
Go
here?
right ahead, yeah.
I hope this is proper, but if I'm not, Hillary or Randy can tell me, go home and
We'll
keep my
slap
mouth
you.
shut.
Add to that.
A lot of daycares are tied into schools in other places where I've lived. Now, as everything I follow in the legislature, they're not about providing any funding for anything like that. So it pretty much falls on the private sector to come up with a means of doing that. But when I look at our zoning code, the first place that daycare is allowed is in R8, and only as a special exception, which I think makes it kind of difficult for someone who, I don't know, maybe they want to take in 6 children and help. It's very hard to do that. It goes up, it picks up R12 and so on. And most of it's undefined, but I think Mr. Meyer said, all that's governed by the state. They show how much play area is required and so on. And I feel like I'm not sure of the process. Someone should be looking at the zoning districts and see if daycares could be included at more restrictive zones, even R3, as a matter of right with certain limitations that would then pick up the other fields. It may encourage or allow people to do it who can't do it right now. And it certainly is an area that is very, very deficient in most communities, not just here.
Mr. Chairman, if I
That's my
might
thought, that's
Good
all.
point. Go ahead.
speak to that, we do allow it as a home occupation, and we
I
did
know that. Is
allow
that
them
a
to have
daycare?
employees as well, so that does
Residential.
allow them to have additional students. That change was made in the code a few years ago.
You know, I saw that when I was looking at the code, and I thought, well, I can have a business, but I can't take in children. But it's the same thing. I guess it doesn't matter as long as there is a way to do that in the more restrictive zones, which makes it much more accessible for people and people able to do it, period.
Okay, well, thank you. Good point.
I'll go home now.
You can go
Okay.
home
I'll keep
now.
my mouth shut and leave, okay?
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I
Second.
have a motion by Commissioner Ingalls,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That,
None? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.